Rings the bailiff, said I'm sick of out with this now. Gans the unit. I just looked out the back, knew straight away what it was. £500,000 worth of in there. I was always hustling. I was always the one who was out there, like pushing as much as I could.
Can you remember the turning point then? This is just a pure hustle where things are gone wrong and I'm breaking even, to I'm well off now.
But I think what people didn't understand about property is that I would constantly put myself in my overdraft to buy more property. It's mental how you'd feel more comfortable paying a national bank opposed to paying Tommy from round the corner.
So what would you say is one thing that people don't see about the world of property?
You waiting that long to get your premises back, push a murder upstairs. Now everybody goes on about evicting people. Now if the process was quicker, you'd have saved a life upstairs.
Have you ever thought about wrapping it all in? Or pressing that till button quicker than what you want to?
It's like, how much do you want it? Do you want to be in it, or do you just want to talk about being in it?
Today we are joined by Darryl Cullerton. Now, for those who tuned into the last one, it was absolutely unbelievable. Now, this guy is a businessman, entrepreneur, landlord, property investor, you name it, he's done it. Property portfolio is over 10 million now. And I just want to have you back on the show, mate. So how are you doing?
I'm really good. How are you, odds?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. We're down at one of your properties you just bought.
Yeah.
And so if you're watching this now, you can actually see it's a bit of a tip that we're in.
Yeah.
Can you explain the story about this and why you bought this building?
As I've come through property, I've just slowly done different things. Started off buy-to-lets, flats, bedsits, studios, HMOs, service departments, new builds. Now I'm on a bit of a commercial to residential transitional period, which I think is really lucrative. So when I walk into a building, I look for certain things, exit points for windows, roughly square footage, how big it is. I also look at how many I can get into the building. I'm pretty knowledgeable now, so I can generally walk through a building now and get a good understanding of how many apartments or how many retail units I can incorporate into a building. And I'm also there or thereabouts. I know the gross development value, which is what any investor will aim for. So when I look at a building or any project, I look at GDV, what's it worth finished. So then I'll know by looking at the proposal what I've paid for it, how much it's going to cost to do, and how much it's worth at the end. So on this particular project that we're sitting on now, I think it's 12,000 square foot, and I've bought this on a option agreement. So I've paid 5% deposit, and I'll pay them once planning permission's passed. But I also always put a 2 to 3 month stopgap in. The stopgap is if I get planning passed in January, I've got 3 months to pay the seller. So I look at this as also quite a lucrative and quite lucrative market.
Do you think that by having that stopgap in, you're giving yourself a bit insurance there, like you're giving yourself that?
It's just breathing space. But there's a lot of people who don't carry out the construction. They'll basically just go, they'll sell. Because I've took a building, I know if I get what I want in this building, it'll be worth 1.44 million. And I've paid 210,000 for it. So I could say, well, I'll sell this for 350. Somebody else can construct it and carry out the works. So I could essentially make like 140 grand, whatever it is, you know.
So what would you say, Darryl, to the people who think that getting into property, there's no money in property? Because a lot of people are saying that now. Have you heard that yourself as well? A lot of people saying, didn't be investing in property, go into watches or go into something like that. And it's like, how true is that? How solid, from an investor's point of view, is property now?
If you're going to get into property, you've got to play the long game. Like, I think in anything, you've got to play the long game. If you're looking to create a massive amount of wealth in a short period of time, there's too much risk involved. But what I also see as well is I feel like a lot of people, there's too many chiefs and not enough apprentices in the property game. Nobody wants to work their way up. I couldn't carry out this development on the back of a course. I see this happening a lot. Like people who's never knocked a nail in, gone into a commercial development, lending private finance monies, and the wheels coming off. Like,
What do you think the reason that is? Why do you think the world? Do you think it's like, obviously there's going to be the experience part of you that they
Yeah.
haven't worked their way up and stuff, and had the boots on the ground. But where do they fall short? People who haven't had that experience.
Um, it's pure. You've got to have experience in this sort of field. Like, look at this building. We've got 4 floors. Got 12,000 square foot. I paid 5% on exchange, so 11 grand. I'm probably going to be 15, 20 grand in on architects and solicitors.
Mm.
Then I've got to pay the seller, and then I've got to carry out. But the one thing a lot of people are not keen on commercial to resi. But look, we've got the foundations, we've got the roof, we've got the walls. I'm basically stripping out and putting stud walls in.
Mm-hmm. What did you say the profit was on this building?
If what gets passed from the council, it
Mm-hmm.
should be worth 1.44 million, based on a previous development I've just done up the road.
What did you get it for? 200 grand?
210.
210.
So I think it'll be a £600,000 fit out.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I put 100 grand's worth of contingency in,
Mm-hmm.
700, 8, 9. That's if I sold the building. I think where people get things a lot misconstrued in property is if someone's got £100 million portfolio, someone naive, he hasn't got £100 million. Not saying he's got £100 million, because he's probably got 70 to 75% of it leveraged
Mm-hmm.
against other developments, other stocks, other assets.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have 25 million, but anybody who's coming in to buy £100 million portfolio is going to want a minimum of 10% off that portfolio.
Yeah, of course. And especially with something like a project like this, obviously you're going to make that 200-300 grand, but that's going to appreciate anyway, and
Yeah.
you're not going to sell it, and you're going to be
Yeah.
making money off the tenants, etc. With that being said, do you think commercial to resi is the way to go?
At this moment in time, for me, definitely. But
Mm.
if you're just starting out in property, definitely not. Like, you need to learn from the ground up. Like, I just imagine myself, I've made mistakes on residential properties, buy-to-lets. You get emotionally invested in them properties. I want to do this. When you first start off, you do. I want spotlights. I want this. I want that. I want this. You look at that property as if you were going to move into it yourself, rather than doing it to a really nice standard, but like not going too far.
How much does that differ, Darryl, from getting a property to specking it out to how you would want it to it'll do for a tenant?
See, which we are looking at. It's not the case to do for a tenant, because I want to do the property to a standard where I'd live in.
Mm.
But you can go beyond that.
Right, and you think a lot of people fall short on that as well?
Yeah. So you've got to play the job right. You've got to get it nice, but not like too far beyond that point.
What's happening, guys? I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you are, please hit that like, hit the subscribe button, and press the notification bell so you don't miss another episode.
Thing is though, because I've got friends in property, and I know that they'll spec their properties out before they flip them, and they're unbelievable, the
Yeah.
standard that they're putting in there, and they're like dream homes, every one of them, and obviously the margins are going to decrease because of that. But is there anything wrong with that if there's still money to be made, and the buyer is going to get an unbelievable home?
Totally different realm of business flip.
Mm.
What you're talking about, I'm talking about holding.
Right.
So
Right,
I'm looking like I'm trying to redeem me 25% that I've put in the deal, which at this moment in time isn't easy, but I think it is a lot easier on these sort of developments.
because I think on the first podcast, I'm sure you said that you've never flipped a property.
I've only sold one property.
And how many have you got? Over 80 doors?
Yeah, well, obviously over 80 doors, but obviously this will be. I'm be doing 12 here, and I'm doing 8 up the road.
There'll be 100 doors bang on.
And I've just bought a plot of land that was a public house that had been flattened, that had planning permission passed in 2013 for 6 apartments. I've just bought that on an option agreement as well.
That's 106.
Yeah.
So you're going to have 106 doors. You've only ever sold one.
Yeah.
What's the reason that you don't get into the flip side of things?
I want to leave something for my kids. Like, not everything, because the deal come where I do with the till button, where I cash out. But I would like to think that my kids could take it further again.
This is what I love about you, right? Because for me, and it could just be a naive way of thinking, because I know that the majority of the viewers are going to probably be on the side of thinking that I am, because most people don't have 100 doors.
Yeah.
So
That's just 100 headaches, that.
But this is how I'm looking at it right now, and I'm thinking, for me, if I could just hand one house to me kids,
Yeah.
that's enough.
I think if you
Because
want
I
to
wasn't
get,
handed a house.
yeah, I think if you're going to get involved in property ads, I think you need to shoot for a minimum of 10.
Hmm.
If I was going to invest in one property, I'd probably just advise someone to wrap the money up in S&P 500. That's going to give you a 10% return a year. Done it for the last 100 years.
Hmm.
So I kind of see why it would change.
Why 10? Why is that the magic number?
I feel like I was actually talking to this the other day with my pal, and when I had 10 houses, and I always remember I used to net 3,600 a month,
Hmm.
and I felt like my life was better then than what it is now.
Crazy that, isn't it?
It's just so like I was really comfortable. Your repairs were minimal.
See, you know what it is though, mate. It's nice, but it's also quite sad that, because I look at it two ways. Like, I look at you and I think, he's the boy, him. He's successful. He's smashing it. He's from the same city as me. He's a good example of what people can go on to achieve. And I look at all them things and I think, good on you. Keep going. Keep going. I didn't think there's a such thing as a work-life balance. I didn't think you need one. I think if you're happy doing what you're doing, keep going. Some people absolutely love the chaos. I do. That's the way I am. I didn't know where my next job's coming from, but I feel like I'm always hunting. I've got clients and I'm always looking for the next thing. And I feel like with property, it's going to be no different. So the funny thing when you said there, you were happier when you had the 10 and you were getting that 3,600 quid net. Like, why do you think that? Do you think that the chase was still on, or do you feel like you were just happy with less headaches?
You're actively involved when you sub 10. You're living the job yourself, eat, sleep, and breathing it. It gets to a point now where I've got projects ongoing, and once they're handed over to the subcontractors who I use on all of my jobs, I'll literally go back beginning, middle, and end. Or if there's a problem on site. But we're that used to doing the projects that we do, there's very few problems that passes us by. But the one thing that I get a lot of is like, how shall I start in property?
Mm-hmm.
How shall I get going? What's the best way forward? And I think you need to get a clear indication in your mind of what you're getting into property for. Is it for cash flow? Is it to leave your job? I love property as a side hustle, even though it's grew into a monster of a side hustle. I've still got my day-to-day job, family business that I run with me brother and another gentleman from County Durham, Paul.
Because I think that's also really important to say that, because I've been over to your offices, and it's really nice to see the fact that you've got a day-to-day. And I asked you, didn't I? I said, why do you still do this? Like, if your hustle's as big as what you said it is, which, I mean, it's there, it's fact, it's out there. And it's almost like, do you feel like you're doing that to keep yourself grounded more than anything else? Because clearly that's not the money maker out the two. I'm sure your side hustle's matting you more cash than what that is.
It's a family business, you know. My dad started that business in a coal house in Castletown in 2000. Like my granddad's, I actually own the house where the washer house was, where we started the business.
Mental, that, innit?
So it's like, that's a different field as well, you know, because obviously that's a successful business.
Do you dig people's heads in? Like, are you hard to live with?
I think I'm vacant because I'll be thinking of 100 things at once, and if it's not really catching us, the conversation, I'll be gone. I'm number crunching. I'm looking at the next deal. I'm back working numbers. I could be sitting and driving along the road with my girlfriend in the car, and I'll say, "Can you share this by 4 times this by 3?" Just to work some leverage and some deals out and stuff like that. So I ain't easy.
Do you do your in?
I think we both do each other's aiding, if I'm totally honest with you. I think everybody's got their own ways, you know. So, but I'm not easy. I would never sit there and say I was, but I was like this when she met us. So,
you know that mindset, Darryl, when you're in company and you're number crunching and you're looking for new ways and ideas and stuff. Again, a lot of these things that you're saying I relate to. Were you like that before you got into property, did you get the bug?
I was always hustling, even when I was younger. We'll have these conversations all the time, like when you used to have the snidey clothes and stuff like that. Like, I was always the one who was out there, like pushing as much as I could. But even when I was younger, like, I didn't get me pot money unless I done my granddad's garden. Like, I always had to do a job to receive something. which I think's really good because I think you can create total blobs now, where like dad'll do it, mum'll do it. I always had to have a go.
Never heard of that term before.
So I just feel like you've got to. I think you've got to instill things into people, because if you continually do things all the time, like what's your kids gonna do when they're 20, 25-year-old and they keep on looking at you?
Mm.
I want my kids to look at us for the rest of their life, you know. But obviously, I want them, if they come and failed 4 times, I'd have more respect for them, because
Yeah.
I've failed multiple times. I see it all the time and in property, like on Instagram, people talking about how much money they make in serviced accommodation, how high the valuations were, comparable evidence versus actual valuations. And like, I laugh a lot, because even people who's close to us, they'll look at a street of comparable valuations in that street, and they'll just look for the highest one straight away, 160 grand. So that's what this house is going to be worth. I can buy it for 50. I'll renovate it for, 50 grand's worth of renovation cost. We've got 60 grand in it. I say you haven't, like. How's that? That's a cottage. That's up and down. Same street, man. Totally different house. More bedrooms, more square footage. That ain't gonna work.
Do you think people overlook that? Is that common?
100%.
See, because even I don't know enough about it, but even I would know. Up and down, you're gonna get better than a cottage.
You always say comparable valuations. You never say true valuations. There's so much clickbait on Instagram.
Well, I want to ask you about this, right? So, with all these courses and no money downs and HMO and all this stuff that you see, all these different types of influencers and people now in the property game selling these courses, run to the back of the room, all that type of stuff. What do you think about all that?
I think anybody who's going to get involved in property needs to have some form of mentoring. But I think doing a day in a classroom, that ain't enough to truly understand property and what it's all about. Let's be honest, like, people who mentor, they just, I would want to be spoken to somebody who's lived it, had the sleepless nights. It's alright just pulling fluffy numbers off on a big screen on the stage. Real numbers, real investors will understand this. Getting a valuation done and having 2 sleepless nights, is it gonna come in? Is it not gonna come in? Because you're basing it, like, on any investor is basing everything on that end value. If that end value falls short, you've got a domino effect going back over. It's all on that. That's why one of the tricks that I've learned throughout the years is I've always carried out 2 to 3 valuations on one property.
You know, ballparks.
No, because this is active live offers. So I'll say to me broker, well, let's go out to 3 panels. Why? So I want 3 separate valuations. I'll pay the valuation reports, because I've seen over the years how 3 different independent valuations can vary so much. It's scary. I tell my pal to do it, who I'm learning at the minute. I said, get 2 valuations done.
How do you know which one to trust?
The better one. There'll always be one that comes in better than the other.
But how do you know it's more accurate? Just an opinion, innit?
Let's be honest, like, how accurate are property valuations? It's, your house or your portfolio is only worth what the man or the woman is willing to walk the path and pay you. Well, I'll get carried away on these massive fabricated numbers. That's all it is. Everything in property is just leverage.
So for someone who's done maybe a property course and they've not seen the results, right, from these experts or gurus out there, what should they do?
I think you need to start small, then slowly build yourself up. You need to get it I think the biggest area where you can get caught out is down valuations, which just happens all the time, but you never hear about it. And getting your construction costs correct.
I think people overspend.
100%. I'll give you a classic example where I was bitten. Well, not so much bitten, but like, I've renovated my own house. I gave 525 for the property. I spent 600 on it. I'd had it valued 3 times by mortgage valuation companies in excess of 1.4 million. I never took the mortgage out because I was still waiting to see if the market would settle. So then I thought, I'm going to get it done now. I'm just going to hit the variable rate for 2 years, then I'll fix. So bearing in mind, I've had 3 valuations done, all above 1.4. Then I get a company in, and I get a phone call off me broker saying your house is being valued at 850. It's like, fucking joking. 850? Not a chance. 6,000 square foot. I've had a value 3 times by like Sterling Ackroyd, like all your proper valuations from banks. It's impossible. So then this is unheard of what happened, because you'd normally just get told, that's my valuation, end of story. So we challenged the valuation and they come back at 995? Because I think anything over £1 million, personal indemnity becomes liable. So if I went bankrupt, there's someone else got to sign off over £1 million. So the bank called Harpenden basically turned around to me, broker, and says he can have a reval. So reval, back to where it should be. But can you imagine being downvalued 650 grand on a property that's being valued 4 to 5 times?
But I suppose there's an opportunity in that, isn't there?
An opportunity in what
for
way?
a buyer, because say a seller gets undervalued, doesn't look into it like what you did, and understood better, they may end up selling their property for a lot less than what they actually. Someone like you could come in and get that property, and it could be 600 grand out of what you got it for.
100%. But obviously, I've had that many valuations done on that property and carried out a lot of comparable evidence on it, and had it valued 3 times that I knew it was like nowhere near that number. Then to get another revaluation done.
So you said for someone who's been through a course, or even someone who wants to get into it, you said start small. But I can't help but think about when you said you wouldn't go less than 10.
Yeah. Well, this project here would give you everything you wanted under one roof. But
so when you say start small, is that what you mean?
No, any bank now, if I can give anybody any advice, document, photograph every project that you do, because banks will ask you for it.
Right. Didn't know that.
Shows some advice. You know, so I pay for this. I can lend 65% of the renovation costs, but I've got to provide the capital company with experience to prove I'm capable of carrying this work out.
Right, I'm with you. So,
you know, if you've done a flat, then you've done a house, file it, keep it, show them your experience. It's the same. I think there's a new product being launched now where you can lend 70% of the market value. So if you can buy 100 grand for 70 grand, you're bridging it with minimal inlay from yourself. So, but they'll ask for experience. If you've got none, you'll not get the deal. This is
how do you that experience though? Is it literally document as in taking photos like you sell?
Yeah.
But surely you can get them photos anywhere, because when you sell the property, the photos are still there because you've got to upload them to wherever.
No, I'm saying so. It's a renovation that you're holding onto your books. So schedule of works, charts, photographs. Just compile evidence. If I can give anyone any advice, compile evidence. One of the things that I do get asked a lot is, how do I get started in property with like not much money? And 1 or 2 things I've done when I was coming through was I had 2 personal residences, because you could have 2. I think it's dropped to 1 now. So essentially what I'd done was I bought one with a 5% deposit, lived in it for a year. Then I thought, well, I want to rent it out, but it's my personal property. So I've spoke to the bank and got a consent to let. Consent to let was a written piece of paper from my bank saying, or lender, saying, Darryl, you can rent this property out. So then I'll go get a tenancy on that property, rent it out for 3 months, go back to me broker. I want to buy a personal residence for myself. Have you not got one? No, look, I rented it out. There's me consent to let, there's me lease, there's me proof of rent. I need bother and get you another one for 10% if you want.
Whereas now you'd have to pay 25% for your second one.
Like where I'm getting with it now, I've never looked at today's market on buying for myself, but I'm almost certain that you can get 10% mortgages now with national mainstream banks. Now, I'm not sure if they leverage any further deposit in on a payback scheme or whether it's just a straight up 10%. I've never looked into it.
Is this only talking about your first property though?
Yeah,
So what about the people who've got one though and want the second?
I think the
Is that when
only
it's 25%?
the only way that I would have to look at that would be, can you get a consent to let on that property, show that you rent it out, and then can you buy another one with 10%, or whether now that you've got one, are you allowed that second one? But if someone didn't have a property, I would buy one with a 10% for a personal residence, live in it for a few months, get a consent to let, rent it out, then just forget about it.
But where do you go in the meantime?
My nana's bedroom.
Because that's what you did, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
So
I'm just thinking, if you really want to push on in property, you cannot have all these luxuries. You cannot be having the nice house. You cannot be having the nice car. You've got to sacrifice. If you're unwilling to sacrifice, it's pointless even looking at it.
No, that's a fair point. Not like, because I think people want that plush life, don't they?
Yeah, everyone wants to look flash for the Instagram, don't they?
Mm.
Everyone wants to blow up, want the best holidays, the best cars, and I understand it. I get it, but I'd rather have me assets paying for that lifestyle rather than me day-to-day income sacrificing it that way.
It's a smart way to look at it, and I think especially a lot of young people need to look at that. I think the hardest thing is for that scenario is, let's say someone like myself who's got a family, and I want to go down that route. It's very hard for me to say, right, let's all move in somewhere else then,
Yeah.
and we'll rent this out. Now, your argument would probably be, well, in fact, what is your argument? Would your argument, right, move in with your ma?
No,
All of yous?
it's difficult, isn't it? Like, if you've got your own property and it's got cash in it, sell it and rent one.
So would you advise that?
Well, I wouldn't advise, but obviously there's an option, isn't there? How much?
You definitely advise that, wouldn't you?
No,
Really?
I just like, how much do you want it? Like,
Mhm.
that's the point, you know. Do you want to be in it, or do you just want to talk about being in it?
So, but isn't that, by selling it and renting one, isn't that counterproductive as well? Because aren't you just flinging money away by doing that?
Well, I ain't buying one if I've got plenty liquid in my house.
Aye. So go straight in with a couple.
I'm gonna try and like leverage up, because once you've sell your house, I appreciate you losing capital growth. But I feel like there's better deals out there if you understand the game to remake that capital growth.
So, what do you think people should buy or rent to start with in life? Because a lot of people are now saying you didn't want the restriction of having a mortgage and all the rest of it, and
Yeah.
ultimately, there's the argument of you never actually own a house anyway, because if you didn't pay your mortgage, the bank are taking it off you anyway, so it's never really yours and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then even if you do buy a house in 30 years down the line, you paid off your mortgage, and your daughter gets married to someone and he pisses it all up the wall. There's always that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people saying just you've got the option of having no ball and chain. You can travel the world. You can do all that. What's your thoughts on all that? Or do you think you should be owning property?
I'd say I'll be totally counteracting what I've done, because obviously I generally buy a rundown building, renovate it, and then move into it and live in it myself. Where I've got a lot of liquid tied up in my house, but I just look at that as rainy day money as well. So rather than having that money working 24/7, if I ever need to get my hands on something relatively quick over a 6 to 12 month period, I'm not going to market it and sell it tax free. Where anything I've bought through my limited company, I'm going to be taxed on or penalised. Where your personal residence is fully tax deductible. So there's an argument for each, you know. I could sell, rent, but I think if I ever was to rent, it would probably be off a land agent, opposed to like your everyday landlord, because I feel like land agents who like manage estates, they're looking for lifelong tenants, where a landlord could potentially give you eviction notice, could sell the house. There's so many moving parts in that.
I want to ask Darryl, if you can, for someone who may have just tuned in, right, or they may just see this one snippet, can you break it down as short as possible what someone should do from not having a house to owning 10? What's in quick steps?
Zero money.
Whichever, whether you've got 20 grand lying around or you've got nout.
Yeah, I think if you're running low on funds, I think a lot of people bounce up and down about deal sourcing, something I've never really been involved in, but it looks like such a headache for a tight margin. Rent to rent, where you're renting a house off a landlord and you're kitting it out, and you've actively run it as an Airbnb. which
Was that legal or not?
oh, you can do it, yeah. But it's like you see, I see a lot of numbers on Instagram, and I just shake my head, and just because I've got 6 over the road.
So what's that? You effectively subletting a property that you're renting
Yeah,
yourself, right?
that's what I mean. I've never ever been approached by anybody. They'll all ask us advice, but they've never ever asked us if I've got a rent to rent.
I couldn't think of anything worse
Well,
than renting a property out to someone to rent out.
but they'll give you an enhanced rate.
Mm.
But then, is your neighbours going to be ringing? Is there going to be people partying there? But you can get that with your everyday tenant as well.
So what would you say then for them people?
One thing I've seen at the minute is so many people lend an investment who haven't knocked the nail in. I think if you're going to risk anything, I think you've got to risk yourself before you can start diversifying into lending money off people. Because it's a long, dark road when you... And I've seen some of these agreements that get pushed out. I'll give you 10%, 12%, 15% return on your money. And I look at the paperwork that you get to sign, and it ain't worth a packet of nuts. I just think if anything goes wrong, I think you've got a right headache trying to get your money back. But if someone come to me who's done 2 properties and brought us 2 files, or done 1 property and showed us his numbers, showed us his success rate, then money lending, bridging, would probably be something that I'm looking to do in the future. But I'd want to see what your man or your woman's capable of doing.
Do you think you make more money in bridge lending than what you would in property investment?
I don't think it's so much money. I think it's just easier.
There's no strings really. It's just a case of. Aye.
Well, I've seen it on some of these mentoring courses. There's mentoring mentors, and they're giving you the sales pitch on the stage, and they've got any experience.
No, well, this is what's interesting, Darryl, right? And this is why I think, not blowing smoke here, right? Not just saying it because obviously you're from Sunderland as well. But I've off the first podcast we done, I've had so many questions. So honestly, so many.
Yeah.
People who've seen us in the gym, out and about. Can you give us that Darryl's number? I want to ask him. And obviously you've had it as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
You felt obviously people inquiring and stuff. What's the most common thing that people inquire about?
How do I get started in property?
So it's always back down to that, isn't it?
It's always like, how do I get started? And like, you need money to get started in property, or you need to find an alternative revenue to create money to buy.
Mm-hmm.
But like, once you start buying, it's like, I personally didn't think you look back. I'm carrying out some revaluations at the minute on properties I've owned for 11 years. And when I back worked it, I think they've increased by like 78%. The values of them properties.
Mm-hmm.
So like over a 10-year term, I've seen like a massive increase. And that increase, I'll refinance and I'll buy more. Or I'll leverage it and buy something else.
Would you do the same, Darryl, if you went back now? If you could start your journey again, but a day in 2024?
Yeah.
Would you do exactly the same?
No, definitely not.
What would you do?
You'll see, it'll be hard to see what I would do because this is what I love now.
But with what you know now? Because I know that there's a massive thirst for this.
Yeah.
And I know that when I look online, even me personally, when I'm looking into certain things and obviously speak to yourself and all the rest of it, when I look around, I'm thinking, why does everyone make it look like you need money and you can become a multi-millionaire with all these properties?
Yeah.
The further down the rabbit hole you get, you're thinking it's not as easy as that.
No.
And I feel that you've been sold a dream by a lot of people who've got a Lamborghini. And I feel like that is one of the biggest problems. However, because you're in it, as we discussed on the first podcast, you've had the nice cars, you've had the nice homes, you've done all that. You've lived in your nana's bedroom while you've opened multiple doors. You've did it the legit hard way. You still got a day job. You're not trying to bullshit people saying I've got these islands in Dubai. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're not short of a quid or two. So there's the side of that which I think people need to see, the transparency.
Yeah.
And that's why I ask you if you could go back to starting your journey again, but in 2024 with what you know now and how the landscape's changed, how the marketplace has changed, how social media is involved now.
Yeah.
Even from a point of view when you talked about, documenting your journey or having all your evidence and stuff. Now you can put things on YouTube. You could literally show the next investor or whoever, look, this is my last build. You could be buying land, building flat, whatever you're doing. You've got it all there now. So, but I also think that gives a lot of people that shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
And they'll look at it and think, oh, well, maybe I can do that. When really, the best thing they can do is stay in that call centre, live at home with a mum, and save up as much money as they can. but they already want to get into that nice car, nice this, nice first house, when really that might not be the time for them. And that's why it's important to bring you on, because you know better. So what would you do? Start again.
I just think people need to stop thinking about shiny objects, and they just need to roll the sleeves up and YouTube, books, courses, like they're all going to help you. But I think majority of the people who's doing well around me, it's because they're insulated around me, in that I'll give them as much information as possible. It's like, look at this, for instance. If I was to promote this on Instagram, I see it a lot. Bought a building for exchange contracts for £1. Building's worth 1.44, 1.4439. I'm in profit. No, you're not. I've got to pay that this building is worth 1.44 million when it's finished. Turnkey project, done. Prior to getting to that 1.44 million, I've had to pay architects, solicitors, builders, everything, and the seller. So I could be all totaled in at £1 million on this. And on the market, it's worth 1.44 million. That's what a valuer is going to come and put a valuation on this building. Doesn't mean it's going to sell. Someone might come in and offer us 1.2, 1.1. I know what it's actively worth, but obviously, I work with a 1.44. So the bank of lenders, semi-commercial, less than 50% floor space on commercial to resi, and I'll be at lend 75%. So I know I can pull 75% out and move on to the next, exit the renovation company who's lent us the money, pay me fees, move on to the next project. Where somebody else who's looking on a post on Instagram, it's about £1 million. I'm mad now, yet I'm not finished.
If you don't know by now, I run a business called The Content PT. I create content for influencers, PTs, online coaches and fitness brands all around the world. So if you are someone who's in need for sexy content for your social media, or you really want to maintain a competitive edge in your industry, drop me a DM on Instagram.
You've got to carry out the stages. Well, I didn't think them stages is explained. The reason I bought this property, I got it through Lofthouse and Partners, Mario, who I've got a really good relationship with. He's straight as a die. He wants the best for the people he's selling for. But obviously, I've done a lot of business with Mario, and he understands us. And he would give us a rubber stamp to say that if Darryl is to invest in this and you do accept his offer, I've worked with him in the past. He's solid as a rock.
That goes a long way, doesn't it?
I saw both of you as bouncing off each other. So Mario knows he's got a good buyer for his seller. He's getting the highest amount of money he can get for them, and Mario hasn't got a headache. Neither is his seller. So it's simple business. It's like when you're actively involved in the property market and you're actively getting valuations done. You get to know valuers. So once you get a relationship built with a valuer, I'll always say to me broker, I want to use a panel where that valuer's on the panel, because he or she knows their job, knows what she's talking about, and it'll give us some understanding on the day whether I'm there or thereabouts, rather than getting someone who's come off a computer course, done half a dozen valuations, comes in, knocks your lights clean out, so you're on the ropes, taking a 10 count, thinking, if you can buy property for that sort of money, go and find us 10, I'll have a lot of you today. So I'll always air caution to the wind and use the valuers who are not and do the job.
See, I think this is what's really important. The point that I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's all a game, really, in it.
Yeah.
And it's like anything. It's like sales, business. It's all the same. It ultimately boils down to relationships, building rapport with people, and understanding that people are going to help you out if you help them back, and all the rest of it. The average Joe listening or watching who's never bought a property before won't understand that part of the game. They'll just think, I want to buy a property, even if they're not that way inclined. But really, you need to be out there. You need to be seeing the whites of people's eyes, making deals, having conversations, buying them coffees, whatever you've got to do to build them relationships. And I think what's really important about that whole scenario is, for you, right, buying a property like this. Now, really, I know that there's always going to be an element of risk. But for you, there's not really any risk in this property, is there?
No.
Because if worst come to worst, you're going through all that process, you're getting your money back. Minimum. Obviously, you're definitely going to map money in something like this, a project like this. But with you, it's almost like the further along your journey you get, the easier it is, because then even the valuers, even the people, you know, whatever part of the journey, they know you more. You're more experienced. They're gonna help you more. Things are gonna be swayed towards you more. You're gonna have more of an advantage over other people.
Yeah.
If I start property today and I'm coming up against you and we both want this building, even if I've got 10 times your wealth, there's a good chance you're getting it over me. And that's just the way it is. And I think that's something that needs to be taught. And I guarantee that's not taught in courses.
Yeah.
Having them relationships, that's absolutely massive. I know for a fact, even with what I do, Darryl, I know there's lads, right, who are a million times better than me on a camera, with videography, but they don't get the clients I get.
Yeah.
And I know that's because of the relationships I build with people.
Yeah.
And I understand the vision, where they want to go, and I want to help them. I genuinely want them to win. And I think that's the same. Mario with yourself.
Yeah.
He'll know, well, no, I want the best for you.
Yeah.
It's good for him, and it's good for you.
Yeah.
Whereas people probably just think if you've got money, you can just buy everything, but it's not always going to be the case. Have you ever lost a deal that you thought you'd have had to a competitor?
I think 9 times out of 10, I don't know who I'm up against, but you've got a rough understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost loads of deals, but this is another thing that I'd say. I think I get emotionally involved. Keep your emotions out of the deal.
How do you do that?
You just need to set a number, and that's it.
Is it out to do? I know that obviously you've had quite a big boxing background, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, have you had 47 fights or something?
56.
56 fights.
Yeah.
Do you think that keeping your emotions out of it comes from that?
No experience, because I've had my emotions in it. I had my emotion when I first started. My emotions was heavily involved, but then the revaluations. I always look at the revaluations, so I'll always try to push. But in certain areas, you've only got that ceiling level. You kind of push beyond it. So you also need to be careful.
So when you had your emotions in it at an earlier stage, is there a time that you can think of when it was really bad, emotion-wise?
I don't think so much really bad, but I think what people didn't understand about property is that I would constantly put myself in my overdraft to buy more property.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't sit on liquid. And I would be sitting there thinking, like, fucking hell, Darryl, what you done? Like, head and hands job, you know, like, you've bought another property, you've got to, like, why?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I see it with a lot of people now, like, I still, like, I didn't put myself in my overdraft, but I just play bigger now. Now it's changed. I was playing a bigger game.
Does it excite you more?
Love it. I feel like I'm calm in chaos. If I've got, like, nothing going on in my head, then
It's a scary place.
I'm done.
Have you ever thought about wrapping it all in? Or pressing that till button quicker than what you want to?
I get asked all the time. Like, I have, like, a lot of people have vision boards and this sort of stuff. I didn't. I just found something that I really loved doing, and I just push on doing it, you know. But there is some days I look at it, because, like, a lot of people will see it, this will net you 300 quid a month. All right, sound. So I'm a year in, my boiler gun's off. Darryl, new boiler needed. How much? 2.5. I need bother. Where's your 3 grand went to then? People didn't explain that to you.
Yeah, that's it.
On Instagram. Or you've had a storm, half your roof's gone. 1,500 quid. There's so many moving parts that's not discussed. Like, me broker will ring me and say, Darryl, I've got a cracking deal for you. Champion, let's have a look at it. It's a stonker. You get the valuation done. Oh, it's not quite at the valuation where it should be for them. They've lost the appetite for that deal. So it could be the second or third deal, but I'll accept. I've been there before in the past, Dad's like, I've got 9 properties on the same street. So I got them valued, value perfect. I'm going to return you 75%. About 16 days before I'm due the money, gets a phone call. We had a look at this deal. The credits had a look at this deal. 9 of them on the same street. There's too much saturation there. So therefore, we're only willing to give you 65%. So if I'm due, if the property's worth £1 million and I'm due 750 back, I've just been kicked for 10%.
Is that why you always say try and aim for about 10 others in a point?
Yeah.
You know, you've been talking about the boiler and that gun in there.
Yeah.
Is it so you've always got that?
So one counteracts each other.
Aye.
One of my big turning points in property was semi-commercial, because I knew if me commercial was empty, me resi would wipe its face and still make us money. But if the commercial was busy and the resi was full, it was double bubble.
Can you remember the turning point then?
Yeah,
the actual point when you were like, this is just a pure hustle where things are gone wrong and I'm breaking even, to I'm well off now.
Bought me first commercial. It was a news agent in Castletown. I used to go in there and my dinner when I was in Castleview. And I think I gave 55 grand for it. And I turned it into 2 flats upstairs and a shop downstairs for the same amount of money that I was paying for a council house in Townend Farm, Hilton Castle or Castletown. But I'll also tell you, like, on this same deal, so 2 flats done, 500, 450, 550 downstairs. Got 3 rents coming in now. I've got 3 doors off, 1 freehold. I'm thinking, this is the way forward here to multi-door, multi-stream. So at the time, I'll only been young because I was still boxing at the time. So I was out jogging. Gets a phone call off a previous broker that I used to use. Deal was all set up, 75% return. Or they've done a drive-by. They've done a drive-by on the properties, and they're not keen on the area. They'll lend you 55%. So I'm jogging. I've got me lot in. Now on this property, I've used all my cash, my reserves. Valuations come in. Everything's all singing and dancing. I'm jogging. I'm happy. I'm singing. Buff. 20%. Knees gone. Fucking hell, how's that? How can you just drive past the property and just like not like the area? This is where I'm from, Castletown. What's wrong with it? Like, Castletown High Street's bouncing now. I've got 3 properties on that high street, and I just gone. But at that time, like, your world's ended. You've put all that time, effort. You're waiting for the monies. Game over. They've knocked you for 20%. I can attack that deal. So then you've got to go back out of the market, get another valuation, get another offer, and then hopefully then play a ball with you. People didn't say that.
Do you think I would have finished you if it went the wrong way?
This is why I always say, this is why I'll always run multiple offers on my properties now. Because just recently I says to me pal, just pay the 350 and get 2 offers on this property. I'm not spending 350, I'm saying spend the 350. If a gun side was like, give the 350, back me sell. One come in saying he needed a timber and damp report, and the other one come in, bang on, need timber and damp report.
So just by paying that 350, you're getting out that report and all.
You'll always, me and you will always see an alternative side of the story, but just didn't get blew up by all these valuations that you see. One bit of advice I would give to people, there are companies that give you a desktop valuation.
You talked about this on the first podcast, didn't you?
You can pay someone like 35, 45 quid to give you a value on that house. So if them give you an 80 grand valuation, and they're a valuer themselves as well, they're not just an estate agent, and you can buy that for 60. There's your 20%. Or your 25%, sorry, in the deal. It's all about leverage and how cleverly you can do property. I think, like, people look at property and just think numbers.
Do you think everyone should use a broker?
I think which way the country's going, I don't think you'd be able to get a mortgage without a broker. And you know, if I had to fill all my paperwork in, I'd be on ages. Where once your broker's uploaded everything onto the system, I use multiple brokers. I don't just use one.
Would you advise that as well?
I just like get a deal. It's your money. I know we've got relationships with
I was
people.
going to say that's the hardest bit though. If you've got a relationship with a particular broker who's maybe getting you 4 or 5 properties, how do you then be like, look, mate, I'm looking elsewhere and all?
Just you've got to because people get comfortable. Ads. Like, and some brokers will answer the phone straight away. Some will take 24 hours to get back. Yeah, I'm impatient, fucker. I want to pick the phone up and I want bang. This is what I can get. Yeah, I'll have something out here in an hour. If I've got to wait 24 to 48 hours, I'm done. I need answers. Because someone could ring me, say, Darryl, I want 250 grand for this property, but it needs to get done in 6 weeks. Can you get us some feedback ASAP? So I'll want to have some rough numbers looking at it to see like which way I'm going to push forward on that offer. But like, I think anybody who's actively getting into property, and they haven't got a property, I would look at that 10% option at the minute. Because if they buy £100,000 property, they're only chucking 10 grand in, and I know I'm using 10 grand as like only. It's a lot of money, but if they've got 10 grand sitting there, why not put it into a better buyer property? Put it in your personal name, get a consent to let. Then in 2 years' time, when your mortgage is up, sell it to your limited company, or transfer it to your limited company.
You don't have to pay a tax on over guns at your limited company.
Just sell it for in the space of 2 years. I can't see the market value changing too much from going from personal to limited. You'd have to pay a stamp duty on it, but obviously
worth it anyway.
In time, it's worth it. This is what I mean. It's long game. It ain't short. Like you need to look at the long side of it.
It's back to that, isn't it? People just want to make a quick buck though, so they're looking at the flips. They're looking at and that's probably what's actually stifling them from doing what you're doing and getting the success that you've had, because you've always thought long game.
Yeah.
And I think it's like anything. It's like, even when you talk about your boxing, it's a long game.
Yeah.
How many fights have you got to have to get anywhere?
No.
Do you know what I mean? There's people who aren't in the boxing world, and it's like, now they've been doing this since they were 6-year-old, man.
Yeah.
And they're not where they want to be yet. 6-year-old. Do you get what I'm saying? So when you look at it like in property, if you're listening or watching, whether you're 18 or you're 45, it's never too late, is it, to start this?
Definitely not.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you've always, it's only ever increased, hasn't it? The trajectory obviously there's peaks and troughs, but overall it's always ever went up.
Always.
So you can't really lose if you are playing ball long game. When you got your first ever one, Darryl, right? Or not even your first ever one, but did you ever just wing it? Or did you always do your due diligence first? Were you like, no, I need to know what I'm doing. Or were you like, okay, now I've winged that and like?
No, I bought one in Town Farm, 72 Baltimore Avenue. Like I know I'm like majority of my properties, and at the time, like I was speaking to a couple of like old school landlords. So I said, I'm looking at one on 72 Baltimore Avenue. I really need bother. It's on the market for, I think at the time it was on for 64,000. So what do you think this is worth? Like at the time, I'd went in full ask 64 grand. So all the old school investors are going, not worth a penny over 50, not worth a penny over 51, not worth a penny over 49. So I'm thinking, and now I've blew me tits out of your mind. I've steamed in at 64. That'll have been 18 years ago. And I've just had that house. Like I'm literally just coming out of a 5-year deal now at Atom Bank and going into a new one. And I've just had that property revalued at 135,000. So that was 15 grand too expensive to the old school guys. I thought I overpaid. My legs is gonna gain. If you want to get into property, you just be ready for standing counts, because it's not all bang bang bang.
But this is what interests us, right? If you're looking at a house, right? I'm just matting the figures up, but let's say you're looking at a house for 100 grand.
Yeah.
You want to buy it, rent it out, whatever you want to do. You just want that property. It's 100 grand, right? And let's just say people are looking at it. I wouldn't give more than 80 for that. I wouldn't give more than 90 for that. Nah, it's never gonna do for 100. You end up paying. It's still. I know it's not good advice, right? But it's still worth paying 120 grand for it, isn't it? Because if you look in 30 years' time, you're not gonna lose that money either.
No.
Even if you mark it back, where you're getting it back, it's like when people buy a watch.
Yeah.
It might not go all the way through the roof. You could buy a Batman or something like that, and you might mark a couple £100 over 15 years. But it's not about that. It's about, can I not lose money here?
Yeah.
Because as what you said, if you've got multiple properties going on, not everyone needs to be a winner.
Yeah.
Ideally, in an ideal world, it'd be nice for everything to make money. But as long as you see, you can wipe your face.
Yeah. That's
the bigger picture in it. But how do you tell someone that who's just getting into it?
I think
because it is, and I'm speaking for the people who'll be watching you thinking, well, it's easy for him to say. It is easy for you to say now, because you're in a position where you've got 120 doors in the next few months or whatever. But and I can say that's not going to stop anytime soon. I can feel the hunger. I know what you like. So even that, it's like, yes, but it's less risk for you now. I get you playing a bigger game, so there's more money involved. But the need to win isn't as bad.
Yeah.
In your head, it will be, but to someone, it could be there all or nothing.
Yeah.
That's not going to be you. So, do you think that people need to be more risky, or do you think you should play the game conservatively and be like, no, only do this if you can really afford it? Or would you be like, look, even if you've got $7,000 in your bank, try and borrow a couple more grand and just get that house anyway. Blow yourself out, but you've got it. How would you? Or would you be like, no, just keep building?
I think it's totally down to circumstances. Like, have you got a wife? Have you got a fiance? Have you got kids? It's totally different. But I think people need to look at property as a side income. Not.
But even that first one's not making you any money, is it?
No, that's what I mean. It needs to be a side income.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have your general day-to-day bread and butter.
Aye.
Then as you move through the gears, you might get to a point where you're thinking, this could half replace my lifestyle, this now. But like a lot of people, like serviced accommodation, that's all I see online. And like I've had serviced accommodation and there's so many moving parts. And 100% occupancy, 90% occupancy. Ain't happening like.
Mm.
Like base it more on 50,
Really?
60. And there's a lot of changeovers. It's not just the case of like, I'm going to do some serviced apartments, and if there's workies coming in and out, there's repairs, there's utilities, there's rent, mortgage, insurance, furniture, sheets, cleaners. Like, I don't think it's dressed up, but all you get is that big glowy number at the end. 40 grand a year. All right, then deduct off your 40 grand, tell us where you're at with your mortgage, your insurance, your cleaners, your repairs, your changeovers.
And you know from personal experience, every 10 doors you get in with service accommodation, you're going to lose about 4 of them.
Yeah. Well, for a classic instance, I've got 6 Airbnbs directly opposite this project.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just signed all the Airbnbs to someone who strictly just does Airbnbs.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, too much of a headache, too many moving parts. Like, I'm not interested in moving parts. I want to renovate, rent, move on.
Do you know much about Airbnb yourself?
Not really, apart from I ran one of my own homes when I moved out of it as an Airbnb. And fees is high, wages is high, cleaners, changeovers, new microwave, new this, new that. Wasn't for me. I'm not saying it's just because it's not for me doesn't mean it's not for. It's a good way to make money, but it's labour intense because your changeovers are so fast.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? So then it's like, yeah, if it's risk to reward as well, isn't it? Because you've got to look at that side, as you say, it's moving parts, dealing with people, unpredictability.
Yeah.
You're dealing with more headaches or more potential headaches. Do you want that in the back of your mind as you're trying to move through the gears, as you say?
Take this into consideration. You've been on a course. You've been on one of these day courses. They've took you on Rightmove. They've showed you a house. They've showed you a house is sold nearby. You've getting yourself all geared up. You've went home. You juiced up off this course. Right, I need to buy a property for 20 to 25% less than what it's worth. And then I need to refinance it or I need to flip it. So anybody walking off that course is literally going to jump on Rightmove. Zoopla, Rightmove. House prices, comparable evidence. Not one person will shoot for the low or the medium.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them will shoot for the high.
Mm-hmm.
You've failed before you've even started.
Why do you think that is?
Because, like, you need to, I always class as, like, one of my property companies is called Lemon Property Investment, because I would class a lemon as, like not an outstanding property.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I've called it a lemon.
Mm-hmm. It's like a low-hanging fruit type of scenario.
So then you look at your spreadsheet, you've got 80%, you've got a 80 grand property you can buy for 65. You've jumped on a group. Right, I'll give you, if someone can chuck us the 15, I'll give you 10% a month back until I've carried out the renovations. He then gets to these next stall, and I think I can renovate this for 20 grand. The renovation's 35. He's lent another 20. He's 35 in the hole, lending. He then gets to a point where he hits a deadlock on his money. He ain't paying investors back. He's still 5 grand short in his renovation, and he's still waiting to refinance. And I bet you any money it happens all the time. How many success stories do you see of the mentorship programs?
You don't really, do you?
Compared to the volume of people that's running through the doors.
Well, that's the thing.
Aye. Are they actually there for a certificate and a pat on the back? Or are they actually there to learn how to buy property?
You know what blows me mind? I I don't know. I'm on the fence for it because, I mean, I've never bought a property from a course.
Yeah.
Or did a course to a point where I've went to buy a property because of it. But I've got two sort of views on this because I think there's an element to doing a course that's good because it's like a crash course. It's intense. It can be information overload, but I feel like a lot of people may get a kick up the arse and do something with their life because they think, do you know what? Actually, I've spent $3,000 on this course or whatever it is. I need to put this money into it now and give it a go. And I think that might be something. So there's always going to be value in that. But then secondly, as what you just pointed out, you might hear percentage or 2% of people who do these courses. Like, I know a lot of people who've been on courses and I don't know anyone who's successful with property other than the people who are, but not the ones who've been on. Do you know what I mean? Like people like yourself. So I didn't. It's funny that it's funny, and I think with you, and this is why I keep telling you, you need to offer some kind of mentorship.
Yeah, I'm not crabbing mentors because obviously the majority of mentors have come from the property world. I just didn't think that you can instill anything into somebody on a week's course.
And that's the thing. It's something that you have to be.
It needs to be like a
one-to-one almost.
Yeah, so like a subscription, so to speak. I would think, and I know that people do like mentorship courses where someone come to me and they've got no property experience and they say, Darryl, well, your mentor is, I'll give you X for the year. I want to do the kind of developments that you're doing in Sunderland. I think I'd have to say no.
Aye.
Not because I didn't want to take him or her's money, but I feel like, whoa, cool your jets. Like, there's a mountain to climb before you jump into this sort of stuff. And if you start chalking all your money up left, right, and centre of people around us, and then you fall on your face, I didn't want that to become and people looking at me, well, why you juice someone up who's had no property background skills at all, jumped on a course with you, dove into a massive commercial development, he's skinted his mates and his family around him or her. I'm not saying this happens all the time, but I feel like there's a high chance it would happen on something like this.
Do you think the best way to do it is to almost hold someone's hand through the first
class? Like, who in life now doesn't look for reassurance? This
is why you should be offering that monthly calls and check-ins and WhatsApps, and because I know if I was buying a property and I had you in my pocket, I'm not going to get it wrong. How can I get that wrong? But again, it's the same as having a videographer for your content. It's the same as having a coach for your boxing. Things can happen on the night. But you know that you're never going to leave a stone unturned. You leave a note on the table if you have that person to guide you.
I've got someone who I'm like mentoring at the minute, which is like one of my friends, and he'll send us a deal, and I can see he's excited on it. He's emotionally in on it, and I destroy the deal. Then he'll say like, nah, it'll work. It'll not. It'll definitely not. And he's convinced it'll work. And then he'll ring us and say, I've been outbid. See, get on your hands and knees and thank the Lord. And then he'll get a month by and he goes, you know, them deals you were telling us about, you were bang on. I says, I've been wet so many times in this game that I know when a deal's not going to stack up. I know your comparable evidence. I know by looking at a property roughly where we're going to be on cost. Why would you want a land bank? When
you ever get it wrong though, Darryl?
Oh, 100%. I've getting it wrong, but I think now it's like, this is the problem with these sort of buildings. I can set a budget, and I think I want to steamroll it. But in old buildings, there's so many unforeseens. So the first thing I've done when I looked at this building, all the window points is in. They've been bricked up. Doddle. New roof needed. Asbestos report. Floor plan. Strip out costs. And then I'm going, but you can't hit, like, I might get in the floor levels might need changing. I've had a look at it and it looks
straight away just cost.
Like, but I've got the resilience and the capital to pull myself out the shite.
Are you in a see? Because you're a hustler, so it's hot. I find a deal. I gone, Darryl, I'm thinking about this. You know me. I think it's you're mentoring us, for instance, right? I think it's gonna be the one. Like, you think, it fucking is, eh? Like, are you not tempted to get that?
No, like I've sent the previous one that one of my pals had just bought. I sent them it.
Because
what do I gain?
Because well, the example I'll use, Darryl, right? I've been in this scenario before, right, where I've passed work on to people when I couldn't be there. I couldn't be on that. I was away or something like that. And inside, I've thought, fuck, that would have been a meaty client, that, and I've passed it on. And I always find it hard to do that, even though I know that I couldn't have been there anyway. So it's selfish. That's what it is, really. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, but I've worked to be in this position.
Yeah.
Like, I've put the years in when all years weren't doing that. And you feel this sense of, like, almost entitlement in a way. Like, but I've put the work in, so I should get that client. And then I've had to miss up the opportunity because of this.
Yeah.
With you, it's not like you're like, I'm done now. I've got me money.
Yeah.
So how do you have it in you to be like, no, you can make a few $100,000 on it and I'll just step out?
Because obviously the people that obviously I'm working with at the minute, they're starting off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm buying different stuff, and I'll always put something.
I get that.
And I'll also put something in the chat, or the people who I'm working with, are you keen on this?
Because you wouldn't be interested as well anyway, really.
Yeah, because I was just like, this is
Small
what I
fish.
mean. Like, people think Sunderland, there's knee fruit here. Like, there's fruit everywhere. I could find a deal for someone tomorrow, just on Rightmove. There's deals stacked everywhere around here, but it's knowing how to stack them deals and how they actually work.
So that leads us on to this question then. For people listening or watching who want to get into property, areas, where are the best areas to buy?
I think that at this moment in time, obviously, the upper ratio, I think if you've got liquid to waste, I will be looking in the city centre, because there's that much getting spent in the city centre. Got the sheepfolds, that's currently getting done, and Rick Marsden from BDN, who was carrying out the sheepfolds, he was the guy who lent me about conditional offers, and I was just buying on with me on money all the time. Yeah, refinance. And he says, have you never ever looked at the conditional offer route? And I was saying, like, what do you mean by conditional offer? He says, oh, well, you put an offer in and obviously you pay them subject to planning being passed. So he lent me that side of the game, but he's commercial, strictly commercial. No, I think he's built some high-end resi, but he's like strictly commercial based. So just through like having acquaintances who's doing different, you learn from. And I think you're a fool if you think you cannot learn, because I'm learning something different every day.
Right, fair enough.
And I'll just listen to people and I think, oh, that might work. Well, he shows, like, so I will be so ignorant of me not to pass a deal on to somebody who I want to succeed, just because I think, I don't think they should have it.
Because I hear a lot from different people that you should always buy in the area that you know.
Yeah, I've always concentrated in like Town End Farm.
Is that because it's cheaper though, Darryl?
Not so much cheap, because I used to like the peace of mind that I can drive past it.
Right.
But the downside of it is,
you can drive past it.
No,
that's the downside, and all in it.
People,
in a way,
people know it's your property.
Aye.
So then your phone, like, I would want to be known as a silent investor. That's not. I didn't want to know. If someone had a problem with a Gento house or a Sunderland City Council house, they couldn't get through to the guy who ran the organisation. They'd get through to a call centre.
This is the thing, isn't it? When you're buying in your area, though.
Yeah. So then your phone's ringing. Oh, this neighbour's doing me head in. Like, you're not just becoming a landlord cash printing machine. You're becoming a therapist, a mediator. Like, you've got all this stuff, you know. This one's cut me Wi-Fi wire because I'm not letting them use me Wi-Fi anymore. And this one's parked the car over the drive. The dog's had a shit outside my house. Like, it's just a minefield.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you. So, because obviously you're from the Northeast and you buy in the Northeast, and I said this off camera, but I'm going to ask you again anyhow. A lot of people, they'll look at landlords or they'll look at couplers and anywhere, and they'll look at people who've got multiple doors and property and stuff, and they're like, they're all greedy bastards. Yeah. Why should they have all these houses? It's hard enough to get a house as it is. And what do you say to them people? What do you think people have got that? Because I know a lot of people who are like that, who speak like that.
Well, let's be honest. You know, when you look at any short video, any property campaign, everybody shoots for the £300 a month gross profit margin. That is the golden number. So just say, for instance, I'm at £300 on a house you rent off my ads. My insurance has got to come off that, unless I would just class me mortgage versus me rent. So I've got 300 quid. My insurance might be 80 quid a month. Me management fees maybe 15% a month. I've got CP12s to carry out every year. I've got electrical reports to carry out every 5 year. Any repairs, I'm done. That 300 quid brings.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, when you sign into a variable mortgage offer, and you just get a letter through your door, Darryl, thanks for your business over the last 3 years, mate, but you're on a variable rate, so I'm just going to just hinch this mortgage up by 2,800 quid. That was one of the deals that I had on a variable, went up by 2,800 quid, you know, during the lift.
Mm-hmm.
So that 300 shrinks further and further and further. And then, Darryl, we've done a boiler check today where I think they need a new boiler. I think we need some new TRVs. Oh, we've carried out an electricals test. There's code 1s and code 2 remedials. You need to carry this out to get your certificate compliant. There's so much behind it all that it's frightening. It's not just
the tenant or they don't see that, do they? Though? No. That's the thing. So the rent, I mean, even when I've looked in the the rents are getting ridiculous.
Yeah,
they are like some shite areas, even round here. You're looking at like $850 a month for a semi in the middle of night, like just some shit. And I'm thinking that's a lot of money. That.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember, even the cottage that I'd bought before the one I've got now, right? Even them are getting rented out now for like nearly 700 quid a month. I think that's mental.
That is.
When I bought that house, you could rent them for 495. It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
Where's the 700 come from? Like, wages haven't increased by that.
Theoretically, there's probably someone paying 500 quid a month on that anyway.
Aye.
So what? They're making 50 quid a week. It's peanuts. You've only got to have a repair gone wrong, and you've totally you've wiped out what you were making. Where it works for me as a numbers game.
I think the tenants blame the landlords, though, don't they?
I know, but like, you can blame whoever you want if you were renting off Gen 2 or whoever, you know. Like, which way I look at my service is that if you reported a fan to a local authority, you might be waiting 3 months for it to get looked at. Like, I'll be done within 7 days, in, out, done.
Fair enough.
Like, I respond at like a rapid rate.
Before you got into it though, did you look at like I don't know what your mindset was, your family mindset, but did you ever look at landlords and think, I didn't want to rent off the landlord and pay them. I'd rather that house myself and make the money.
It's like you see.
Did you not look at it like that?
It's naive, isn't it? Because you're either paying the bank or you're paying the landlord. But it's mental how you'd feel more comfortable paying a national bank opposed to paying Tommy from round the corner.
Because I've heard
which way people's wired.
I mean, even when I was renting, right? I had a lovely apartment in Ashbrook in Sunderland. I had that for about 3 years, and I was paying about 700 quid a month on that apartment. I lived on my own, and that was for back then as well. I was only 23. It was expensive for me.
Yeah,
and even I used to think I'm paying, and I used to think, right, I'm paying this fucking bastard £700 a month.
Yeah,
it was frustrating because I didn't have the deposit. But I was like, and I lived there for 3 years.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I've paid this bloke about 40 grand a year, man.
Yeah, but how much is he paid out?
And so that's what I've given, and I kind of, but in my head, I was like, if I had the 40 grand, but I've never had the 40 grand. Do you know what I mean? So it's easy to see it, and it's easy to be like, sticking your fist up and be like, I've paid all this money, but at the same time, I never had the money to get the flat myself.
Yes.
That flat is for sale now, and just out of, I'd love to just buy it, just to be like, right, mine now. No one's renting it.
The department.
An apartment.
I normally stay clear because there's normally amenity fees and that involved in apartments where you've got to pay like monthly charges for someone to come over your stairs.
Aye, that's right.
So it's something I've never really, because it's just another bill for the tenant, really, innit?
Would you say avoid that, flats and that?
No, I've got a load of flats, but they didn't incorporate amenity fees where your off flash stuff do.
Right, I see.
You know, like I'll have flat blocks, but I haven't got an amenity fee on them. Like, it's incorporated in the rent. I'll have a cleaner come through, like once a fortnight or once a week to come in. But how much does a cleaner cost? £13 an hour.
When we're talking about buying in your area as well, does that come with much stick at all from local people? Because I know we talked before, off camera, when we talked about getting complaints and stuff from people.
Yeah, I had one just recently that I bought. It was a barbershop, semi-commercial. Was formerly a house. This is a mistake that I made, which I'll put my hands up to. Formerly a house, so I looked at it. It was on an auction site. I thought if I can get this for this sort of money, it's a doer. I'll change it back to a house. Change a use application because it was formerly a house. Turned into a 4 or 5 bedroom house, rented out. Put the change of use application in, and I think there was 60 comments on Sunderland City Council's website saying that I was housing illegal immigrants, ex-convicts, blah, bullshit. I was putting 20 ex-convicts or whoever in a 4-bedroom house in Castletown. It ain't happening. And nor would I put, like, anything that risks my area where I'm from.
Exactly.
I ain't looking at me end position. I sponsor the local cricket club and everything, you know.
You want your area to be nice.
I want my area to be nice, and I just looked and just thought.
But you wouldn't even have control of who moved in anyway, would you?
To a degree.
But
if I was renting a social housing company or something like that, I would like.
Well, they'd just fill it without, couldn't they?
It'd be unbeknown to me, like, who was going into them.
So what I'm saying is when people are commenting saying he's putting immigrants or convicts in, where are you getting these people from? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what did they think?
That's why I've took a back step from, like, the residential world. It's not because I'm just trying to please people, but just to prove that I had to go back to the council and put another planning application in to turn that into 2 1-bedroom flats. Now, I personally think you get more chew from 2 1-bedroom flats than what you would of a 4-bed family home, but not one person contested the 2 1-bedroom flats. So,
which is weird because it could have been 2 convicts. So it doesn't make any sense.
Just like,
do you think any of that was jealousy? People complaining like, oh, another landlord in the area trying to like.
Irrelevant of how successful you become in life, it's somebody else's reason that you're successful. Nobody says, ads dodgy days, Darryl's dodgy days, sleepless nights, thinking, have I blew me tits here on this job? Or is it going to work? The banks have downvalued us. I need to go out for another revaluation. Keep your head up. I've spent too much money on this project. I'm going after land bank for 2 to 5 years. The valuation was terrible. It's just like there's so many implications. The bank who I was originally going to get a deal with, them's lost the appetite for that deal. So therefore, you've got to pay another 1% for another bank. Your margins dipped again. There's just so much hard work out there in the property world that all you see someone fly up to a door in a fancy car, kick the door through. You see a few people chipping and chiseling. Then it'll come back 8 months later. Renovation cost 25 grand. Total bullshit. It's been like nigh on knockdown and rebuilt. End value 200. Gross profit margin 40 grand. Get in touch if you want a deal like this. Just like, oh, where, man? Like, all people's doing is busy. I've never ever asked for investors' money. Play me on, and I know I could use money, like, confidently and competently, which is probably a disservice to me.
Yeah, I get that. Like,
so I've only ever worked with one fella, and like, I've got a really good relationship with him. There's no paperwork. Now we've done that much business together. If anything needed to happen, or I wanted something to happen fast, I could do it with him. I've never put out there. There's corporations now that offer 20% return on your money. That's advertised out there. There's a lot of people just wanting money to buy and rent, and then them use your money and then give you some of their commission that they're getting out the back door.
So what would you say is one thing that people don't see about the world of property, thinking about getting into it?
Overpaying, undervaluations, and getting your renovation costs bang on, and finding the correct tenant. That's one thing that I would probably look at, like, moving forward, is like, when I first set off, like, I didn't want a void. So anybody who wanted a house, I'd give them a house. Where, like, now it's stringent checks, guarantors, or I also have a partnership with Sunderland City Council where I lease Sunderland City Council properties as well. I would just want, like, the least amount of headache that I could get. But you also got to learn, you know, you've got to have your dodgy tenants. I've had it all, mate.
Have you had, like, I was going to say, with dodgy tenants, does that come with, like, threats and all that? And because you hear mad stories with landlords, I'm not paying the rent, then you're trying to get it off them, and then there's hell on, and then they're dragging it out because they know that they can get 6 months without paying, and then the whole court process, they know they can't be booted out now, and all that. Do you ever go, like, does that get everyone top and all?
You get the odd one. I remember 1 year ago, there was a lass who owed us some money. I think it was only like £400 or £500, so I agreed to just give us 25 quid a month back. just if you want a reference to move on to your next house, set a payment plan up with us, give us £25 a month. And then I think I woke up and I think she must have been in like a kitchen party or something like that. Like some lad, like half knew us. It was like a humble Russell.
Mm-hmm.
But by now my eyebrows flickering. So Bush picks the phone up, totally denies leaving the voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
And like I thought to myself, like, why do I want to be in a position where I'm waking up, I'm ringing someone, I essentially just want to meet up and flatten them. But then Darryl Cullerton, the property developer,
You kind of do
turns up, gives someone a clip. Not that I'd ever want to do that. All right, son, he's getting legal proceedings against you. We'll just settle for that, eh? How does that look to you?
What did the ring you saying like?
Just like, oh, you're threatening such and such. I think we're sorted. Like, I didn't think she should be paying you. Blah blah blah. I was just like, aye. But I was asleep. So then I wakes up and rings him, fuming, thinking, who's this daft? Who's he starting?
Aye.
You know, I've give someone a chance here
And
to drip us back. Like, no threats, just like I'm on.
The thing is, you've got to remember, if you're giving people chances, they're gonna attack libs.
Aye, but it's like you see, I'll try my best to work with people.
Aye,
I was like, I think last year, I don't know if I mentioned it on the last one, I was just sitting on the pool and I was in Spain with obviously our lass in the band. Fucking phone just blown up, bing, 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 bing. Oh, there's someone being murdered in one of your flats.
shut up, man.
Don't believe it. Oh, I've had it all. It was Arnie. I'll show you the photograph.
Because it didn't pay the rent.
I've just had a factory there in Berkeley
mm-hmm.
that was rented off us. I was late on payments. Obviously, in any commercial lease, you'll have something called like what is it? Like you've got like 21 days, or you can do a forfeiture release, where you can appoint bailiffs to come drill the locks, change them. So bearing in mind the rent on this building's only £1,800 a month. Big unit, sublet down the side, big unit. Rings the bailiff, said, I'm sick of pissing about with this now. Let's scan to the unit. Scans the unit. I just looked out the back, knew straight away what it was. Fucking
farm or something.
£500,000 worth of this in there.
Mm.
And I just thought, who doesn't pay
that when they do
£1,800 when you've got that sort of tackle and that sort of setup in there? It's fucking mind-boggling. Is this just like fucking the business world for dummies?
Aye.
Like, I would never have, not that I want anyone to carry out cultivating in any of my premises, because it just costs me a fucking fortune. Do you know how to put right?
Aye. But at
like,
the same time,
who doesn't drop £1,800 into your account if they're printing like six figures?
Mental, innit?
I look sometimes and like I've had it all. I've had complaints about brothels, about
what happened with the murder crack. Does that look bad on you and all?
Well, I actually lost the downstairs commercial tenant on the back, because what happened is, do you know, sometimes when you've got a headache, they're insulated by health workers, mental health in the council, which I'm an advocate of, but you cannot. So you haven't paid your rent, you haven't done this. There's your Section 21. They didn't leave after the Section 21. You fill in by 5 forming against the courts. But you waiting that long to get your premises back, that in that process of that headache, she was 2 weeks off being finally gone. Bush a murder upstairs. Now everybody goes on about evicting people. Now if the process was quicker, you'd have saved a life upstairs. Because I had to jump through every single hoop possible to get rid of.
How would they have saved the life upstairs?
Because they'd have been out well before the extended periods.
Aye.
I'm just putting it hypothetically.
Yeah, I get that.
If the process was quicker and I didn't have to wait 6-7 months to get my own property back, would that have happened 2 weeks before they were due out?
True, you never know, do you? Probably not.
But no fault evictions. It's generally down to people putting rent up, and people can't afford to pay the rent. So then people put Section 21s in because they want to try and recoup some money.
Does it look bad on your rep altogether, though, when dodgy things go on? If you own a building and there's a cannabis farm going, or there's a murder, like, does it look like, I'm not going to work with Darryl, like, he lets dodgy shit go on?
No, because property? Like, everything's like, even the building in Berkeley, that was it was nailers.
Aye, but what I'm saying is, right, for me, and this is being judgmental. If I knew the lad who had a farm, I'd think you were in on it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, what, you're running this out of here, like, and you're paying him rent and that. He probably knows.
But
that's what I'd think.
But I'd be an even bigger idiot than them if I went in with beer lifts and drilled the locks on a farm that I'm in partnership with. You know what I mean? So I'm a fucking right duck, ain't I? I've got $500,000 coming down. I've just steamed in with the beer lifts. I mean, like, so you know,
drilling the locks in that.
I may as well just start selling the big issue. You know what I mean? It's just like I've just ransacked my own operation. This is what you get, mate, in property. It's just a total headache. And everybody you speak to the people who took the lease. Oh, I sublet it. I ain't bothered. I'm not bothered. Just like I just want my property back now. You just create this a fucking gigantic headache. I'm $5,000 down on my rent, and I've got a 30 grand strip out a day here on this property.
So Darryl, final question. For somebody taking the first steps, what should they actually do? Like, really break it down like baby steps, right?
Yeah.
Because it's interesting to everyone, because there's loads of money involved if you do this properly and it's the long game and all. But there's someone who's maybe from Sunderland, or anywhere really, but who's listening going, I'm ready to take that first step. What should they be straight away appointing a mortgage advisor? Should they be looking in the local area? Should they be on Rightmove? What should they be doing?
I think first point of call, like anybody who's in your lug telling you not to do it, white noise, gone. You're on your own mission now. You're on a journey. I would get out there. I would get on YouTube. I'd read books. I would look at a course. But like, I think the only way you benefit from a course is if you've got constant access to that person who can take you through the process. Go into estate agents, Bradley Hall, XXX, view properties, get an understanding of the areas where you want to be, get a feel for the valuation, ask questions when you're on visits, when you're viewing houses. What do you think this is potentially worth? What do you think that's potentially worth? Company like Bradley Hall, they'll give you a desktop valuation for 35 or 55 quid. So for the sake of 55 quid, you could have a look at a property. Can I have a gross development value on that place? So you're looking at that and think it's 100 grand. There's 3 for sale on that street. I think I could probably nick one of them. But how much do I think it'll cost to renovate if you've got no building skills at all? I'm sure you'll know somebody in the building game. Take them with you. Give us a budget cost on what you think this property will be. So once you get that budget cost, I think I could get rid of the rubbish. I think I could do this. I think I could do that. Chip that off their budget cost, then you've got your gross development value versus your purchase price and your renovation costs. That's your golden number. What that margin is in between that is the make or break in property. That's that. If you want to buy more properties, you need to release funds.
I don't see, what I'm struggling to get my mind around, right, is I'd understand everything you're saying if you were going to flip the property.
Yeah.
Like narrowing their margins and doing things yourself and but if you're just renting it out, surely just a bog standard's going to yield the same rent.
Definitely, it's just purely down to your valuation.
But what does the valuation matter if you're not selling it?
Because a property will return you 75% of its valuation.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you buy a house in Hendon for 50 grand and you're renting it out for 400 quid a month, 500 quid a month, whatever it may be, it doesn't really matter what you do to it. It's not going to go on for more than 500, is it?
I know, but the full point of being involved in property is to buy more property.
Yeah, but if you're not, what I'm saying is if you're not selling it, the valuation, I get it in the long game.
Yeah.
But I mean, how is a good evaluation going to help you for your next property?
Because
from the refinancing point of view,
you're recycling your money.
Right, I'm with you.
You're not just buying and holding. That's just land banking. I'm seeing any investor.
I'm with you.
That wants to get into it needs to pull money back out.
But does that not work in the same way I've said anyway, though, in an area? Like if you buy a property in Hendon, for instance, if you know I've bought it for 50, now it's ever went for more than 70 in this area, or these couple of streets, you kind of know where you're at anyway, don't you?
I think if you bought it for 50 and it doesn't need any renovations carried out of it, you've theoretically land banked. If it's only worth 70.
Yeah, I'm with you. You've always got to look at that scope before you get into
I
it to
always
start with.
like one of the things I always tell people to do is get a end value first, accurate gross development value. So if that gross development value finishes 150 grand, then I back work away from me 150.
I'm with you now. I get what you're saying.
So if I've got
You're reverse engineering it. Really.
So if I'm paying 60, then I'm investing 40. I'm all in at 100. I just share that by 4 times it by 3, or whichever way you want to do it. Then it'll tell us what I've got coming out the end door to move on to my next property.
Right. See, because it's so you know when I was looking at buying a property, even years ago, the first time, right? I would go on Rightmove. I'd find a property, council estate around the corner from me, or where I was living at the time, cheap as out.
Yeah.
I'd look at it and gone, bloody hell, it's on for 60 grand. Oh, it's cheap as out. You're instantly drawn to it.
Yeah.
What do you think you should be avoiding cheap areas?
I think you've got to look for the cheapest.
Because you'll see some proper, like, 30 grand jobs, and you're thinking, oh, well, there's got to be 50 grand, 60 grand's worth of work.
The cheapest house in the best area, really.
It's always back down to that, isn't it?
It's like that is your ultimate goal, you know. Like,
but there is little gems, isn't there, with them areas toppers where you can go and rate. Them areas are normally solid.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, there's certain areas that you probably avoid buying, I'm assuming.
I didn't get involved in the Hendon area just because there's different licenses to be an SR2 postcode. Like, you've got to pay Sunderland City Council to be an active landlord down there, where you don't in other areas. But like me personally, like I would only ever buy a residential property now if it was like literally hoarded as for nothing. I just feel like I've passed that. Unless it's cheap, then I'll have a go at it. But like this is more where I want to be. Like at this current moment in time, I've got the 6 apartments to build on that pub site. I've got this 12 to do. I've got the one up St Mary Street. That's 8. I've got the 3 new builds we're building in Revalued, and I've also just had a conditional offer accepted on some land that's not owned by me in Hawthorne of an EV charging company.
Not meant.
But that's not my land. So I've just spoke to an investor. The agent has approached the EV charging company. I've just had to sign a LOA for them to check with the grid to see if they can get power onto the site, and then sign a 25-year lease at I think about £3,750 per charger. But once the charging station's in, it then leads to other franchises.
I was going to say that's a bit of a business in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, just totally different, you know. It's like even a building like this. I think a building like this, paid for, I think you'd be done. But I will be a fool to have this building I've now leveraged against it and then just get caned for 40% tax. I'd rather offset me mortgage, me insurance, me repairs, and then.
So are you instantly going to just pull money straight out of this?
100%. Like, I'll be a fool if I like. It's like you see. I think when people like get things misconstrued, if someone's got a 10 million or a £5 million portfolio, they might have it leveraged up to 20 to 70%. Let's say round numbers. You've got a mixture of commercial and residential. You're going to get 65% on your commercial, and you're going to get 75% on your resi. Unless there's a floor space greater than 50% on your residential versus your commercial, then you'll get 70%, maybe 75%. But it's a constant war with valuers, with banks.
Is there not benefit though in leaving money in the property at all?
Why, when it can be
when it comes to selling it? Like, you've still got it there.
Still got the 25% on it. So if this property's worth £1 million, I've got 250 tied up on it. I wouldn't want any more tied up in water. So everything I'm pulling out, I'm buying something else.
I get that.
So I get asked this question a lot, saying, "I own a property. I didn't own any money on it. I didn't like debt. You just crack on paying tax." And
you're still getting done anyway, aren't you? Somewhere along the lines, you're better off just buying more and more.
Just keep buying, but just do it with like everybody's got their own personal mission, their own personal destination. Like,
I bet you that's the thing, though, Darryl. I bet you can get very, very obsessed and addictive.
This is the most addictive game in the world.
Because I can't imagine if it was me.
Yeah.
And I could be naive saying it, because obviously there's a lot of things that go into it, but I feel like I would be very addicted to being like, right, next one, pull money out, next one. With that, like, I can't imagine, like, if you're that way inclined, well, I guess you've got to be to get to that.
I'm going to reverse psychologize you,
Go on then.
You're not sitting here on a Sunday because you're not addicted to this game.
I know. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
You found what you really love doing, you know, and it's like, I've only watched your trajectory as well, you know, like the changes in clientele, like phenomenal, because obviously you put the time in. Like, it's not nice on a Sunday morning for us to leave the bands.
I know.
To come do your shoot. You're sometimes driving here thinking, oh, but you know what I want to do, mate? I want to, you know, in like 30, 40 years' time, stuff like this, going to be on YouTube. I want my bands to look at it and say, you know what it is? He had a go. He had a fucking go, like. Not even
that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Now, if the wheels come off, bothered, he had a go, like. He didn't fucking pack in.
This is what I'm saying. I'd have killed, right, to see a video of me dad.
Exactly.
When he was my age. Just to see what his mind was like, what was he thinking, where was he at in business, what was he doing. I've loved. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's merit in that in itself. But Darryl, if there's anything that you want to say to anyone, if there's any kind of things that you think that haven't been addressed that you want to talk about, or if you want people to find you, where can people find you?
I'm just busy setting up on Instagram at the minute. Darryl Cullerton, Property Investor. Looking at moving forward, I really want people in the Sunderland area to get on board, to realise that there is a lot of gold around us. I just think that it's overlooked on so many schemes, you know, like people didn't think. A lot of people look for fast, quick money that'll essentially you'll end up behind bars. Play the long game, you can have a good life. Like, follow people who's on a personal mission to be successful in that area. I've been doing this now for like nigh on 18 years. And I feel like I'm just getting to a point now where like I'm on a trajectory, but I never stop and look. I'm always looking for that next mountain. And sometimes you've got to stop and have a look and just appreciate where you are.
You definitely need to. You need to. I think you personally need to probably a bit. I mean, I don't know how much you do, but even just reflect and look at where you're at. You're always on the move. You're always doing something. You're here, you're there, you're abroad, you're at the office, you're doing your job, you're flipping something, you're buying a new project. It's non-stop.
Yeah.
But like I said at the start of the episode, I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think that's the right balance to have if that's the way you are. I think that leans into your character.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important to stop and sometimes smell the roses, because if you're not, mate, what the fuck's the point in all this anyway?
There's no point at all, is there? That's why I've literally tied a lot of residential developments up this year, and like moving into 2025, it'll all be commercial developments. So if I could do one of these at a time, if I could do one a year, I'm theoretically adding a door a month. Like, I want to be in control as well. I don't want to be where I've got no life. I want to be able to get to the 6 weeks holidays and just see how I'll jump on a flight for 3 weeks or a week. But this is the next part of the Darryl Cullerton journey, really. You know, they're like, it's funny that you do podcasts on people, you know, like it was accomplished, it was getting somewhere. Can you imagine if you'd done one on someone just starting? There's
hard to tell the story though, then,
isn't it? Isn't it? But can you imagine if you just kept it, you know, in a filing cabinet? Because there's no to say that they're going to become accomplished or successful in sports, in weightlifting,
Well, that's why a lot of brands now, that's the way they're going. So they document the journey. So, and this is what I was telling you about off camera with all this type of stuff. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because, this is, so I've got a mate who's actually been on the podcast. He's, in fact, he's got something on the horizon. Yeah. I'm not going to get into it, but he's, I've told him to document it, and he's doing it. He started. So, I know, and I said to him, I went, look, mate, doesn't matter about putting it on YouTube. It doesn't matter about trying to put it on your social media. I went, I'm telling you now, mate, you will thank me in 30 years' time that I told you to do this, because he was not going to do it. Yeah. And I've talked him into doing it, and he felt like he felt stupid doing it and being on camera and showing things around. I went, just trust us. Keep it away. Didn't look at it again. If that's it, you've got a son. He's got a young lad. Yeah. I went, just wait until he's old. I went, just show him it. I went, just trust us, mate. It's worth it. No, something could happen to you tomorrow.
Oh, 100%. I see this all the time.
Just do it. Doesn't matter.
I see this all the time.
I always do this with podcasts. I put myself in this scenario where I think people might look and go, what's he doing interviewing all these people, and why hasn't he got a proper job? And I'm thinking, you know, you've got no idea. The vision is so much bigger for me personally than I didn't care about what anyone else is saying. Do you know what I mean? For me, it's like, this is personal to me. I want my daughter to look and go, bloody hell, that was my dad then. Imagine when he was doing that, coming to Mason's Amusements in Sunderland when he's... Do you know what I mean? Like, it's history, it's class. It's meant to be part of that. Why wouldn't you want to film it? I think anybody should I think everyone should start a podcast.
No, definitely.
I think they should interview the fathers, the mothers. I think everyone should have that conversation. Because if not, for the world to see, for them to look back on it, it's mint, man.
It's 100%. I just think for anybody who's going to get onto this journey, Be prepared for kicks, wobbles, overspends, down valuations. It's all coming your way. Then they get lost off on the Instagram, these high numbers, these big turnarounds. But you'll learn, and in years down the line, you'll think, I know why I've done it now. It's definitely a journey that I've really enjoyed, but I've learned along the way, every step of the way. Never always works, but sometimes you'll find a way to get it to work. And if you get a down valuation, just throw your shoulders back and go and get another valuation. Get another. Get 3, just to put your mind at ease. It's like getting an operation. Would you believe the first surgeon or the third surgeon? I want to understand everybody's point of view across the board. Then it'd be frightened just to have a gun, and if people's in your log, just blank them out.
Darryl, thank you so much for coming on, mate.
No, thank you, Ads. Much appreciated.
Legend, mate. Thank you.